What's going on, Vapor fans? Welcome back once again to another episode of the Straight Vault. Today we're going to be talking about a special little red battery over here called the AWT IMR 3040 amp battery. Okay, so this episode, once again, we're going to be doing a little bit of battery detective so that we will tell you exactly what's going on with the wrapper. So you guys excited for that? If so, then let's cue the music. Before we begin, as always, shout out to the juice sponsor. This time it's going to be my good friend, Mikey Vapes. You guys already know him, Mike Vapes. And we're going to go over to his website and check out his product. So what we have over here at the screen cap is Mikey's own juice line called Hit That Juice. So he has got 3 awesome flavors over here: Banana Gaza, Monkey Nuts, and Peach Fuzz. I love the names of these juices because you can literally guess exactly what the flavor profile of them is going to be, instead of, you know, having something that is difficult to connect to, or like, you know, some kind of strange name. Also on his website, he features all sorts of different kinds of other tools and accessories as well. So you could buy a Banana Gaza, Monkey Nuts, and Peach Fuzz for $17 for a 30 ml bottle and $45 for a 120 ml bottle. He also sells them in 3-pack combos. The juices are awesome. You have to try it for yourself. They are totally on point, and I'm not just saying that because Mike and I are very good friends. So Peg, do you hit that juice? Hell yeah, I hit that juice. I hit it like it was a stepchild. So coming over to our day's topic, the AWT IMR 18650 3.7 volt 3000 mAh 40 amp battery, high drain rechargeable battery that happens to be made in China with a authenticity sticker over here. Knowing very well exactly what is underneath this battery, authenticity stickers always like make me giggle a little bit. You know, just the whole idea of authentic rewraps. That's always funny to me. The IMR over here, please guys, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. The problem with the IMR thing is that, like I've said this over and over again, okay? Once upon a time when we first started getting into batteries, and not too many of us really knew too much, we did know that IMR, it was a much safer chemistry. Now, IMR being the safer chemistry, this whole phenomenon spread like wildfire, okay? And everybody wanted this because they thought it was much safer, okay? True, it is much safer in the event that your batteries vent. However, what happened is that, like, now that every single rewrap company has heard from us, especially rewrap companies that are rewrapping specifically for the vaping market, they will rewrap any battery, no matter what chemistry it is, and say that they are IMR batteries when they are not. Now, why am I making such a big deal about this? Because mainly it's because it doesn't matter if it's IMR, ICR, INR, you know, it doesn't really matter what any of these chemistries are. As long as you are using the battery within its, you know, safe parameters, it's never going to vent. So what does it matter exactly what kind of chemistry it is? Okay, so to go off and say that this thing is IMR is not only confusing, it's throwing people off. People are buying it for reasons that they should not be buying it for. You should be buying it for the specs and its parameters if it is right for you. You shouldn't be picking this up simply just because it's an IMR battery. It's really far more important that you pick it up because the milliamp hours and the amperage is right for you. Now, of course, this 40 amp over here is way higher than anybody professional would give it a rating for. But we will get into the graph time, and I will show you guys exactly what battery this thing is. Once again, the 3.7 volt over here. Please understand that nominal 3.7 voltage would suggest that the battery can be charged to higher than 4.2. 4.2 batteries are a 3.6 voltage, not really a 3.7 voltage. Okay, as something to do with the balance of the inside. And without getting into too much about it, 3.7 has somehow became the industry standard when printing batteries. But again, just because we write things on a battery doesn't make it absolutely true. Okay, so let's go over to the AWT website and learn a little bit more about AWT and its products. Ba-boom! We are over here at the AWTbattery.com, guys. Check out the battery website over here. It's called, I don't even know how to pronounce this thing. AWT. I don't know, whatever, battery.com. One thing that bothers me right away over here is that this splash screen that we're looking at, right? So 26650 40 amp battery over here. Guys, does this even look like a 26650 battery, like physically to you guys? It's not even like big and fat like in these photos, like the way it's supposed to be. Of course, these photos are even more stretched out, but that photo in particular, right, you know, they know the difference between like 18650 and a 26650 physical size. But when you go ahead and do a splash page like this, your attention to detail says so much about your company and its products and just basically how dodgy things are, okay? And that bothers me a lot. Furthermore, you know, searching around online, there was other articles and stuff that I found about this battery that didn't sit too well with me. Now, when I did do the search, there was two versions. Okay, I'm just going to show you the one that's more important and more relevant to us. Is that the candle power forms? Okay, candle power forms. There's a guy called HKJ. If you guys don't already know about this guy, and what I like about HKJ the most is that like he is kind of sort of my second opinion about stuff because of the way that we graph things. Because he graphs things for its capability just as I do. While you know. Mooch does the test that's more of like a stress test to go, you know, a little bit further down with the limits of the battery. Now, keep in mind that like Mooch, who is John Mucho, me and him are actually very good friends. We talk a lot. We trade emails. We chat very often. We video chat and stuff, and we trade information back and forth, and we, you know, pick each other's brains and stuff like that. So we're actually very, very good friends who are not like, you know, competing in our work in any way. Okay, there's so much to know about batteries with its testing and things to come out and stuff like that that there's really no room for competition or anything like that. Okay, if anything. With all the people who are out there, you know, between myself, Booch, Torchy, Battery Boy, Dan Focus, HKJ himself, right? We need more people like this to spread the word about stuff. I can't do it just by myself. You know what I mean? It's not about like being the king of the batteries or anything like that. It's about spreading the word of, you know, good knowledge. And what is going on with these batteries is actually very, very controversial. So what I dig the most about like looking at the graphs over here is that when I compare my graph over to HKJ's line graphs and stuff like that, our line graphs match each other, and I dig that very much. Okay, because HKJ is in the flashlight forums, and he's totally from a different field, yet our battery content work mostly agrees with each other, you know? So it kind of suggests that what I'm doing is on the right track. So speaking of graphs, I think it's time for a little graph time. Graph time. So here we are at the straight volt battery graphs, and we're looking at the AWT Red 3000 battery. And this is the line curve. Okay, and as always when we play battery detective, what we do is overlay line curve to line curve of certain batteries, especially when they're very recognizable lines, and we'll see how well they match up to each other. So in this particular case, we have the brown HG2 batteries, and when I show you guys exactly the curve to each other, you could see that they are very, very close at matching. They're nearly identical in this one. Actually, the HG2 cell that I have is 96.9%, while the red AWT is 96.8%. Perfectly reasonable discrepancy within the same bin cells. Okay, so I wouldn't say, you know, what they used was cheap or trash or garbage or inside of these things. It's just simply a HG2 battery. Regarding the HG2 controversy over here that I want to talk about, okay, is that let's come up to FaceTime first, and let's get a little bit more serious about this. Something that has been really on my mind in regards to like batteries in general, right, is that a lot of us is causing a lot of problems online. Okay, I'm talking about between like, you know, all the bigger reviewers and stuff, and history is repeating itself over and over and over again. And I'm really trying to change this. Okay, so any of you guys who are, you know, bigger reviewers and stuff might have seen this or watching this or whatever. Hopefully you could take what I'm saying and to heart, and you know, probably push batteries more in this direction as opposed to what we used to be doing. Okay, the HG2 battery at the moment, okay, is a big mess. All right. From the time, starting from like say like plumes of hazard and stuff like that, they were talking about like HG2 battery, 3,000 mAh, 20 amp battery is a great battery, etc., etc. Did you pick up the HG2? This thing caught on quick and spread. And I don't disagree that the HG2 is a bad battery. I think it's an excellent battery, and it is definitely good for your beginner specifications because it covers such a wide range of devices. However, the problem is that at the end of the day, the message that's being pushed out still feels a lot like a blanket statement that these are our favorite batteries. This is your reviewer's favorite batteries. You should just buy these batteries because they're so good, blah, blah, blah. They're not good batteries or whatever, okay? All batteries comes in different kinds of ranges for different people. So if you need something else, you should buy something else. Don't switch batteries just because somebody else thinks that they're better or whatnot. It is the equivalent of like buying guns and like, one person saying that one caliber is better than like another caliber simply is because it's their favorite. It's not right. It's not the right way to push things. And furthermore, it affects our vaping market hardcore. Okay, I'll explain what that is. Initially, in the early days, some of you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about, which was the VTC batteries, VTC 3s, VTC 4s, VTC 5s. These things went from the 3 to the 4 to the 5, and then they kept on advertising them as 30 amp batteries. We didn't question this at the time because it was a brand as big as Sony. We're like, well, it's Sony, so who am I to say anything? Actually, it's not really Sony doing this stuff, okay? And turns out, for some of us who decided to go ahead and get battery analyzers and really try to get to the bottom of what's going on, we found that like the Sony VTC5 is indeed actually not a 30 amp battery, but rather more of a 20 amp battery. And that makes a lot more sense with its milliamp capacity. Does that make sense? Because it's promised to be like a 2,600 mAh battery, more likely to be 20 amps, less likely to be 30 amps, as opposed to the VTC3, which will give you true 30 amps at 1,600 mAh. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, so after a lot of reviewers and stuff just went ahead and said, buy VTCs, and whatever, okay? This crashes the market, and it crashes the market in a way that like, okay, now everybody's buying VTCs, the VTC price goes up ridiculously, okay, and people are buying them not because they need them, but because it's just randomly recommended as the best battery, okay? There's a lot of people out there who are beginner users, I shouldn't exactly say beginner users, but more of low wattage users that are perfectly happy using like, let's say an MJ1, an MH1, a 35E, much higher capacity batteries, right? There are people who, right, the same thing with the Panasonic PFs, the Bs, and stuff like that. There are also people, right, who are very happy with these HG2 and 30Q ranges. And then there are people who need something much, much further down, the HD2s, HB6s, VTC3s, much heavier batteries, right? So to say that like my battery is better than your battery, and then that guy was using a perfectly good battery for his range, and you switch them to something that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong thing to do. If it's all this misinformation that's causing this to happen, let alone what it does to the market, which is it crashes the market. So how does it crash the market? The VTC battery, well, then China is like, oh, okay, well, if you all want VTC batteries and now we're stuck with all the other inventory, right? We're going to wrap them all in green and then sell everything as VTCs. And that's exactly what happened to the HG2 battery. If you find right now a lot of comments as for the date of this video, okay, they're sold out. They're sold out everywhere. You can't buy the HG2 battery, okay, because everybody is buying them up as their favorite battery because of these blanket statements. They might not necessarily need these batteries, okay? If you go over to the Pegasus Vapor Academy website, okay, you will find a chart to show you exactly what is the right range for you, okay? You don't necessarily have to purchase the batteries off of my website, but the website will teach you what is the exact right range for you in terms of milliamp hours and amperage. So, what has happened with the HG2 battery? Now, there's a ton of fakes. There's a ton of fakes. You can't find them anywhere. And then every single company is attacking with the HG2 battery, okay? The Brilli Powers, the AWTs, the Listman batteries, a whole bunch of different kinds of companies. They're all buying up HG2 batteries and then rewrapping them because we as a community keep saying it's so good. You see what I'm saying? And the truth is that like they're good batteries, sure, but do you need them? Are they right for you? They're not right for every single application, okay? And as far as the performance of an HG2 battery, okay, although normally I don't condone the whole like, put it in a mech mod and taste it kind of test, but the HG2 battery, right, versus like a 25R battery or versus a HE2 or HE4 battery, okay? One hits significantly harder than the other one does. Okay, so what you should do, right, is that you should actually take a mech mod and then put like, just the regular build inside, okay, and then use the HG2 battery and then a 25R battery. You will notice that the 25R battery significantly hits harder than an HG2 battery, okay? So what does that tell you? It still tells you that like, there's a place for an HG2 battery and there's still a place for the 25R battery. One has not taken over the other just because they're both in the 20 amp area. You see what I'm saying? It's one battery is actually still not, quote unquote blankets overall like better than other batteries. If that was the case when the HG2 battery came out, there was no reason to buy the 30Q or the Samsung 25R. Actually, the truth is the 30Q tests better overall than the HG2 battery, okay? I had a short conversation with Mooch about this, and honestly, right now, we unanimously feel the 30Q is better than the HG2 battery. However, I don't want that statement to now start another thing where like, okay, now all the 30Qs are going to be gone, and then everybody's wrapping stuff underneath the 30Q, which did happen for a while, but it didn't happen as bad as it did to the HG2 battery. You guys understand what I'm saying? So with that said, right, bringing up the different things under the wrappers and stuff, I wanted to also touch up a little bit more on the Test CE battery. So this is the previous episode of the Straight Volt, episode 7. We're currently on episode 8. And what I wanted to show you was something that just went into the spam section that is still waiting on our approval. And that's from TestCE Battery themselves. They tell me thank you for your work, etc., but they're also trying to tell me that like my tests are different than Mooch's tests, and here's Mooch's test, and trying to take Mooch's work and throw it in my face, okay? So obviously I contacted Mooch immediately after this, and then we had our little chat and stuff. And it turns out, okay, long story short, that between us, we both received different batteries, completely different batteries, okay? And what bothers me about what bothers me about this very much is that what is going on? What kind of dodgy thing is going on over here? Okay, are you sending stuff to Mooch and then he's gonna give it like a good grade and stuff, but then what happens is that like the actual product that you send out to the public is going to be something else? You see what I'm saying? And then people are going to go ahead and buy it under Mooch's recommendation when in actuality they received something different under the wrapper. That's not cool. That's definitely not cool, okay? What you guys should know is that this happens all the time, and it's not just to batteries, it's also to mods as well. Many times, different companies, they send us atomizers, mods, and stuff like that. We go ahead and review it, and it was given to us specifically under the pretense of review. So we go ahead and review, and we give our opinions and stuff like that, and then by the time, they see the video and stuff, and then they re-release like a whole bunch of different kind of like hardware upgrade, changes and updates and stuff like that, it comes back and then it makes us look like liars, okay? And that's what I don't like, all right? Between Mooch and I, like, our work is going to be different. That's what you didn't know is because what was underneath the battery that we both received was absolutely different. So in no way is Mooch a liar, in no way am I a liar, okay? We just received completely different things. If anybody's the liar, I would say it's this company. So let me go ahead and explain exactly what the issue is and where the problems are. All right, guys, so this is the ECF, where Mooch puts all of his work and stuff. And this is his report on the TestCE 40 amp battery, okay? Now, as he specifically says over here, that he received 2 different kinds of batteries, all right? The first one was something about like 2,300 mAh. and then they change the cells, okay, but it's still overrated, and he got something of a 2,500 mAh. Now this is very, very important to keep in the back of your mind, okay, because with this said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I got. So we're going to do graph time again.
Graph time.
Okay, so this is the line graph of the Tesla battery that I showed last time. This is exactly what I have. I'm sticking by it, okay? If anything, my line graphs of the milliamp hours are never off, okay? When I compare it to HKJ's work, when I compare it to like Dan Focus and stuff, the line graph of milliamp hours of each battery that I have ever done for OEMs and stuff has never ever been wrong, okay? If this is what you sent me, this is exactly what it's going to show, because this is a very, very simple test for any battery analyzer to do. In fact, you don't even really need a battery analyzer to do it, although it's better that you did. Let's say you drain the battery down to exactly 2.8, okay? You like after it's rested, it's at 2.8, and then you went ahead and put it on, like, let's say an X-Star charger or a Nitecore charger, any kind of digital charger, and then you saw like the milliamp hours that was returned, it would be somewhere very close to what I got, which is 2.788, which translates to 2,788 mAh. I could reasonably say, right, after I showed this graph to Mooch as well, this is a 2,800 milliamp battery. Now, being that my battery was a larger capacity, doesn't it also make sense that, like, with the larger capacity, I also got less amperage draw out of it? In fact, when you think about it, right, because it's 2,800, that puts it right in between, like, where I classify a B and a C battery is. A B class battery would be like a 3,000 mAh, and a C class battery would be like a 2,500. So being at 2,800, I would assume that the performance line would fall somewhere right in between as well. So with that said, let's go over and take a look at this. So if I was to go ahead and then open the power profile of the Tesla battery, okay, so I have that over here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and hide that test for you guys. Then I'm going to overlay a couple of well-known HE 20 amp batteries, right? So in order to do that, let's go over to LG, and then we'll get the HE2 battery, right? And then here's the power profile for that. I'm going to go ahead and then change this line color over to red, because we're used to the HE2 battery being a red battery. And then I'm going to overlay the HE4 battery that we all know is supposed to be slightly better because it came later. The HE2 battery is a pre-2012 battery, while the HE4 battery is a 2014 battery. So just by logic, it should be slightly better, and indeed it is better by like a hairline. So if this is a 20 amp battery, right, and I said that the HG2 much larger battery, 3,000 amp battery, right, the line curve should be slightly lower than this in terms of performance. So let's go ahead and grab the LG HG2 battery as well. So LG batteries over here, and then HG2, and then let's open this up, and then you can see that the line is right here. So being that, once again, right, the Tesla battery is at 2,800 mAh, you guys tell me, where should this line graph pretty much be? Okay, so without any edits or anything, but trust me guys, these graphs and stuff cannot be altered with Photoshop or whatever, especially when they're still interactive, okay? So it's not like, I'm manipulating some kind of JPEGs or whatever. This is the real software that we're showing you guys. So when I show you this line over here of the Tesla black line, it's right in between, like, slightly better than the HG2, but not quite a 20 amp battery. Does that make a lot of sense to you guys? It falls right somewhere around there. You know what I mean? So once again, I'm not going to say that my work is perfect and immaculate, but I will say that this is how I do my homework, and these are the conclusions that I draw from it, and how I draw these conclusions based on these kinds of visuals, okay? So, I'm showing you the exact same thing. How could I have deducted anything else? So in this episode, it actually ended up a little bit more controversial than I wanted it to be, because it's not so much that we went into a full, battery detective episode of exactly what was underneath the wrappers, but more of that we're starting to learn that, even when we find out what is underneath the wrapper, doesn't necessarily mean that the one that you purchase is going to be the same one that we got for review. And that bothers me. That bothers me a lot, okay? Because the inconsistency of stuff really offsets the dynamic of what we have going on over here, okay? If, it's not that you can't trust our work, it's that you can't trust that our work still matches what's going to be received in the product. My final thoughts on this one is that if we find any track record of a company being inconsistent with what they have underneath the wrapper, I really have no choice but to tell you guys to stay away from the brand totally, simply because of that inconsistency. You don't know what you're going to end up getting, so you probably shouldn't give them your money. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed making them for you. So, as we always say here on PVA, question everything, do your homework, but vape clever. Take care, everyone.